back. Long B block. This is our C block and final block. We're going to mainly talk about NFL, but before we do, just to wrap up the college discussion, I think that I think that ESPN and the SEC, Fox, and the Big Ten are forming two mega conferences.
Right.
The ACC is ceasing to exist as we know it.
Right.
Obviously, the Pac-12 is gone. The Big 12 is kind of bracing for, a second-tier conference. They're like, we're going to be the best of the other conferences.
Right.
And so a lot of these American and maybe some of the Sun Belt and these other guys will try to get into the Big 12 eventually, or maybe a lot of those conferences will combine and make a fourth conference that's got 20 teams or so.
Wow.
But I feel like eventually what we're moving toward is two major conferences, and then maybe ultimately four. But I think as we get to those two major conferences, ultimately what's going to have to happen, and this is going to relate to NIL and it's going to relate to recruiting in general, is, and obviously transfers, college football is going to need to become an NFL model.
Yeah.
In order to do that, you're going to have to break away from the NCAA. You're going to have a couple of conferences that are like the AFC and the NFC.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an East and a West or a North and a South. And it's going to be collective bargaining, and the players are going to have to form a union.
Wow.
Because they're going to have to be paid to play, because fans aren't going to put up with this opt-out stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not going to last when boosters are paying teams directly.
Right.
So what's going to happen is boosters are going to have to put money into some sort of football coffer that is designated, that whoever the commissioner is, whoever the college Goodell is going to have to regulate it, and ultimately they're going to have to, maybe for a while it'll be like baseball where the Yankees had all the money.
Right.
Maybe Texas and Alabama have all the money to begin with. Ohio State's going to have a lot of money, but eventually, if they're going to go after parity, then they're going to have to somehow equalize transfer opportunities. They're going to have to equalize their, salary cap or whatever it is, how they choose to pay players. And then I think what's going to be really interesting is, is that going to ultimately result in a draft?
Yeah.
Out of high school.
Wow.
As opposed to actual recruiting. But I think we're 10 years away from that. It's crazy, Alex. I've put up with this garbage that has led up to next year. This 14 thing has been 9 years?
Yeah.
But it was 15 years before that. I remember being in high school saying we need a playoff. Because back then it was like they were just voting on whoever the champion was.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of times the two best teams never even played.
Right.
It was stupid. So anyway, go ahead. What do you?
No, I think just to kind of try and wrap my head around like what is gonna happen, like you said, within the next 10 years of college football is like really hard, because I don't know enough like what's going on, like you said, with the TV deals, and so really like that's kind of something like I'm interested in like researching, because I think, like you said, we're moving like the super conference. I think the East and the West is probably like the most applicable thing at this situation, I think, personally. And, and I think it also creates an easier path for, if all the teams are playing together, and the strength of schedule, now, Texas is playing Michigan maybe like, once or twice a year. And so it's a little different. You're not getting these games where, LSU goes and plays some mid-level, low-level Division I school and beats them by 50, which I think that's good too.
Yeah, everybody hates those games. Nobody wants to see Auburn play Samford,
right,
or Clemson play Furman.
Right.
It's just.
And I think we hopefully get rid of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you. And you know what I also think is, my brother is one of these people. But there are other fans that have been watching college football for, let's just say, 40 plus years. And a lot of those guys are, and it's not just older guys, but a lot of fans with college football are more tied to a school
Right.
than say NFL fans
Right.
are. NFL fans obviously tend to they have a lot of identity in their city.
Right.
So, there's something about Cleveland Browns fans or Patriots fans or Giants fans or
Bill.
I lived Bills fans. I mean, Buffalo and Green Bay are
Right.
like not big metropolitan draws.
No.
I mean, those cities have a lot of pride in their teams.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when I lived in Annapolis, it's amazing to me. A lot of Redskins fans, which is now Commanders, but a lot of the Ravens fans. I mean, I lived in Maryland from 2008 to like 2012. No, it was 06 to 11. And Ravens fans were just still hated the Colts so much. And it was 1984 when they left in the middle of the night from Baltimore
Yeah, I
to go
remember
to
watching
Indianapolis.
that.
So there's a lot of regional pride with pro teams, but I also think that more and more people are just becoming fans of the game,
Right.
and they're becoming fans of individuals more than necessarily teams. And so the days of growing up with this being your team and this is always your team,
Right.
is not as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's sad for some people, maybe.
Right.
But I think that a lot of people are a lot more people. Fantasy football has a lot to do with this. Can you imagine if this happens with college football? What's going to happen with sports betting?
That would be.
I mean, the NFL dominates sports betting.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the sports betting on college? It's going to be so much money.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy. I mean, ESPN has already gotten into the sports betting thing. So the number of sports books that are being created because of all this is insane. So anyway, it will be interesting to see next year. I don't think there's any doubt that only the old curmudgeons are gonna sit there and complain about the playoffs. I think every football fan, for the most part, is gonna love the playoffs next year. It's gonna be super entertaining. We're not gonna have this big lag between Thanksgiving and Christmas with horrible bowl games. We're gonna have actual real games, and then it's gonna work out awesome too because we're gonna have a national championship. And then it's going to go right in the NFL playoffs.
I know, it's perfect.
So, anyway, that's where we are in the NFL. Now, Alex, the draws were announced last night. I was really happy. I like the Bills and the Dolphins, but I was really happy the Bills won last night. And obviously, Dawson Knox scored. And so Dawson is my guy. I cheer for that guy. He didn't know me, but I knew him when he was a baby. So, I love seeing Dawson Knox do well. But I was really happy that the Bills won because I didn't want to see the Bills play the Dolphins again next week. I hate those back-to-back same rematches. So the Bills are actually going to host the Steelers, and I think the Dolphins have a great chance to go upset the Chiefs at Arrowhead, although that's a tough place to play. But anyway, what do you think? What are you excited about with the playoffs?
I'm excited for, as a Green Bay fan, we get a rematch from maybe 2018 when Aaron Rodgers went into Dallas and ended up pulling it out. That was a great game. But so we get to see Jordan Love in his playoff debut. Really pumped for that. You talked about being more of a fan of like players, and so as like I'm part of that generation. Like once Aaron Rodgers left, to go to New York, I was like, well, now I guess I'm a New York fan. Like, and even though he got hurt, I still rooted for them. But I still have that hometown pride of Green Bay, and so I'm really excited about that. I think the Lions and the Rams is an interesting matchup. I feel like the Rams are really dangerous right now, and if I were the Lions, I personally probably wouldn't want to see them. Yeah. They're really hot, and I think Bills playing the Steelers, I just don't see a lot of interest in that game. But the Chiefs and the Dolphins are just on a skid, and cold weather, I don't know. I don't see them pulling it out. I think in Kansas City, they've kind of been just barely moving along, and I think they really need like a decisive win in the playoffs early. Just people would be like, okay, like we're gonna respect them again, and I think they're still respected. They have Patrick Mahomes, and they have a top-rated defense. However, with the receiving class and just their offense not looking like it's firing on all cylinders, if they don't come ready to play and the Dolphins, are kind of got that rah-rah, how are we here? We're just going to take what we got. They could find themselves in really close games. So,
what's fascinating? We learned. I felt like this point came home a few years ago when the Patriots were 18-0,
right,
and the Giants beat them
yeah,
in the playoffs. And that year, the Giants actually beat the Patriots in the last regular season game to get into the playoffs. And the Giants, I think, were a wild card team that year,
right,
with Eli Manning. And what the whole point is, the NFL is about being hot at the right time.
Definitely, I agree.
Now, at the same time, now we've got an 18-week regular season with the bye, so 17 games, not as many preseason games, and we've added a couple of playoff teams,
right,
which has made only one team has a bye in each conference. So you've got the Ravens and the 49ers, who played a few weeks ago,
right,
a couple weeks ago, and the Ravens looked great. Niners didn't look great. Ravens go home, don't really play everybody. The sloppy rain game. Steelers get a big win. So I feel like the Ravens have to take another week off.
Right.
Which heal up, yes, but also
rest.
Not really.
Rest over rest.
Kind of interrupts your rhythm a little bit.
Right.
49ers week off, maybe it does them a little bit more good. And then some of the teams that have been hot all year. Even Jacksonville. I look at Jacksonville and I think, they had the best season. Jacksonville's been terrible forever. Right. They had a great season, but they just petered out at the end of the year. And you look at Miami, super hot all year.
Right.
Kind of last few weeks, not as great. Bills started terrible.
Right.
Kind of rallied, got themselves in the playoffs, and now I don't know if I want to play the Bills.
Exactly.
And then kind of the same thing that you said. The Chiefs have been not great all year, but now they're in the playoffs.
It's hit the reset button.
It is. It's a reset. I do think the Dolphins have got an uphill battle against the Chiefs. I do think that the Bills would have to have a mate. I would be shocked. Although Josh Allen still has a tendency to do stupid things and try to put everything on his back. And, I think the Bills will win. And then, the Ravens, right? The other thing is C.J. Stroud. They're playing.
Right.
I think that's a really interesting game because the Texans have been terrible forever.
Right.
They've had a great year this year. C.J. Stroud's had a great year. And Joe Flacco has had a great handful of weeks.
Yes, he has.
Leading up to this playoffs. So that's going to be interesting. And then, your team is the Packers. They kind of squeaked in. The Lions, another team, been terrible forever. They finally look like they have a great year under their belt. I would love for the Lions not to peter out quickly.
I know.
I would love for them to go ahead and beat the Rams and move on.
Yeah,
my team is the Bucks, and the Bucks have been mediocre at best all year, although Baker has been the ideal game manager.
Right.
Don't play within yourself quarterback. I just don't think the Bucks are good enough. But then again, the Eagles have been terrible the last couple of weeks. I think the Bucks play at home. The Bucks might be able to squeak past the Eagles.
I think they definitely have a shot. I think the Eagles secondary is just so bad, and Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You got a couple weapons there that you don't really think of. And Baker, like you said, has been playing really well. I think game managing, and then he looked really, really great against Green Bay in Green Bay in cold weather. So I really think that's probably my upset of the week.
Well, and Dallas, one of the better teams all year. I guess they ended up winning the division.
Right.
And I think Jordan Love is. I think Jordan Love's ceiling is really high. And he makes throws every now and then that just make your jaw drop and go, wow, that was incredible. But then he will force it. He will make throws that make you say, what in the world are you looking at?
There's a little bit of Josh Allen early in his career.
A little bit. He's not as big and as run happy as Josh, but yeah, I think Jordan Love's got a ceiling. I think The other thing about the NFL, and I think this is the biggest kind of deal, and I'll let you kind of wrap it up here, but the biggest thing in the NFL right now to me is young quarterbacks.
Right.
I mean, we have really transitioned from Manning, Brady, Breeze, Rodgers,
Right.
Big Ben,
Yeah.
to Rodgers is left, Flacco's still
Right.
sticking it
Hanging
out
in
there. Andrew Luck, retiring early was
Right.
kind of a big deal, but Deshaun Watson hasn't really
No.
shown what we thought of him. Trevor Lawrence still has potential. Josh Allen still has potential. Mahomes is still pretty good. Jalen Hurts is still pretty good. Baker's kind of battling in there to be a decent quarterback. Jordan Love is. C.J. Stroud's got an upside. So we've got all these young guys, and it's just going to be interesting to me to see who emerges. Russell Wilson, another story that's kind of wrapping up to see what happens with him. But the younger guys, I think it's going to be interesting to see, and Mahomes in particular. Is it possible that Mahomes and Josh Allen have passed their peak as early, as still young as they still are? Did they peak so quickly,
so fast,
that can they sustain that, or can they continue to rise up from that?
Right.
Because I'll be honest, Josh Allen has been better than I ever thought he would be. I thought he was not as accurate as he needed to be, and I did not think he was as athletic as he is.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. Yeah, I think going back, I think we're in a great time for young quarterbacks, which is nice because you're always that fear, like, is the quarterback, if the quarterback play, gets worse, as years go on, like, NFL, it's just not as interesting for me personally. And so, like, seeing these young stars kind of rise up, it's exciting for me as a fan, even, playing against them. I think I've been really impressed with Baker. I think if you're the Bucks, you probably re-sign him, maybe just a franchise tag, but you can't let him walk. I think he's just been too good, and I don't know, now that they're in the playoffs, like, I guess you could maybe try and figure out a trade package. But anyway, going back to just the young quarterbacks, I think a lot of cool storylines. I think C.J. Stroud definitely shocked me. I thought I would have personally taken him over Bryce Young, but I was not expecting him to have the year that he has had, and so I've been thoroughly impressed. And just with the team, I think their coach has done a really good job, and it was great, just like you said, seeing like some of these franchises that have like struggled for the last 10, 15 years finally be something and have a chance in the playoffs. And you never know, and that's the NFL. I feel like more than college, just like week to week anyone can win. And with the Jags, like, Titans final game of the year, Derrick Henry, most likely final game. It's like, you're walking in there, there's a lot of urgency from the Jags to win that game. Yeah, the Titans still, they looked like they wanted it more, and it's just like, man, how does that happen? And so, and that, Trevor Lawrence was, obviously like considered like the chosen one for a little while.
Yep.
And I still would ride with him. However, a couple of interceptions yesterday, which, one's a tip pass and, off a drop, which is not really his fault, but the other one, bad decision. And it's like, you can't be missing the playoffs. Like, especially what were they, 8-3 maybe, 9-3, and then they finished 9-8 and missed it. So I think, and I actually really liked the play calling from Doug Peterson yesterday. I went to that game, actually, the Titan game, and so there were some times where I thought he was really savvy with some of the play calls, and the Titans, I mean, they were outgained, but just watching them, the Jags, kind of just get dominated in the first half, I was really shocked, and Trevor Lawrence just not playing well. And so I think, next year is going to be, a really big year to watch out for him. I think he's really got to have a bounce back year. Otherwise, I don't think.
And Joe Burrow.
Right.
It'd be nice to see Joe Burrow back. Obviously, that was kind of the catalyst for a not great Bengals season, but we would expect the Bengals will be back. And,
and then Justin Herbert, like.
That's right.
He's been I think valued correctly. However, for whatever reason, they just have not been able to win games, and it's like you're wasting, this man's prime, his career right here. And so, like, how do you put him in a better station to win football games? And then, so.
All right, so Alex, let's just real quick get predictions. So who do you have tonight?
I'm going to go with Michigan. I'm going to go 27 24. I think it's a 3-point win. I think Washington moves the ball in the second half.
All right. I'm going to go Michigan 28-21. So I'm going to, and the spread's 10, you said?
No. The spread for this game is 4.5.
Okay.
In Michigan's favor.
So you're basically taking.
I think Washington. I guess we'll cover by a point.
Washington will cover, and I'm probably going to take Michigan with the over. Okay. And then just real quick, going through the NFC, and this is next weekend.
Right.
So maybe we can recap at the first of next week. Although the Eagles Bucks is a Monday night game. So on Sunday, well, let's start with Saturday. Saturday we've got Browns at the Texans. What do you think?
I think Browns. I think they.
You don't have to give me a score, but just you think Browns.
Browns.
Okay, so on the road you're taking the Browns,
right?
And then Dolphins at the Chiefs is also Saturday night.
Chiefs. They need to win.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go against you here. I'm gonna go Texans and I'm gonna go Dolphins, and the reason I'm going Texans is because I think that's probably a little bit of a better pick. I'm not sure if Flacco has been throwing the ball to the wrong team,
right?
Even though he's been throwing for a ton of yards, and I think the Dolphins. Honestly, that's probably a little bit more of a hope pick for me. I think the Chiefs is a more solid pick. But as we move into Sunday, first game is Packers Cowboys.
Yeah, I got to go with the hometown favorite as a Green Bay fan, so I'm taking Green Bay to beat them. Walk in their building.
They're the home team for you, but they're on the road.
On the road.
You're going to pick them to beat Dallas, okay?
Right.
And then also Sunday, Rams at Lions.
I think the Lions have played well enough this year. I think they win in a close game, won a 2-point game. I think it goes down to the wire.
Okay. I'm going to go with Dallas just because they're at home, and I think Jordan Love is still a little bit young. I look for him to throw the ball. I think he's going to turn the ball over.
Right.
And I think Dallas is probably the better team right now.
Definitely.
And then with the Rams-Lions, I'm going to agree with you. I think the culture at Detroit is huge. I think Ford Field, I would, if I could be at one of these games, I would go to Detroit.
Right.
Because that town is going to be going nuts to have them in the playoffs. This could be one of those curse of the Bambino kind of years that the Red Sox had a few years ago, because the curse of Bobby Lane and all of that with Detroit. So I'm pulling for the Lions, and I think they're going to win. And then there's one AFC game that we didn't mention on Sunday, so that's Steelers at the Bills. Do we both like the Bills?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, and Watt has a strained MCL,
right?
And that looked bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the slow motion replay on that, but yeah, I'll go with Buffalo as well. And then Monday night, I'm gonna go with the Bucks just because I can't pick against them, and I'm hoping that everybody seemed like they were limping off the field yesterday. It was an ugly win over the pathetic Panthers, but I think the Eagles are a little bit out of sorts, and I think the Bucks are due to have a great game. So I'm going with them. Who do you like on Monday night?
I like the Bucks as well. I think Baker overall has played really well this season. I think this is a great opportunity for him and his team. And the Eagles, I feel like Jalen Hurts has really just struggled overall this year. Something's not right with them, and I'm not Nick Sirianni. I think he was overvalued, and I think it's starting to show now as a head coach.
Okay.
And so,
and just at the beginning of the playoffs, just for kicks. Normally, I think we do this at the beginning of the year, but we aren't going to get to talk about football for very long, so might as well do it.
Right.
Who do you like in the Super Bowl, and who do you like to win?
I think I like. I'm gonna go with Dallas. I'm gonna roll with Dallas, even though I have them
To win?
To win.
So they will defeat what AFC team in the Super Bowl?
I'm gonna say.
Now you realize you've already picked Green Bay to beat Dallas.
I know. I think. This is just me being like
so
semi-realistic.
Are you being more practical now? Okay.
Right, and I think Dallas. I think really does get over the hump. And they obviously have to go through San Francisco, assuming that San Francisco plays whoever they beats whoever they play in the second round. But so I'm gonna go with Dallas and playing. I don't believe in Baltimore. I think I've seen them kind of fall short in the playoffs. I feel like golly, it just I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I'm gonna throw them in the Super Bowl and think they'll get it right. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
So Mahomes goes to his 4th Super Bowl, but loses his 2nd as they lose to the Cowboys.
Right.
Okay.
Kind of a wild pick, but I'm just gonna roll with it.
Yeah, I am going to go with. I'm going to go with the Lions. I think there are 2 teams that are going to end up in the Super Bowl that are way overdue. Dallas is way overdue, but I think this is Detroit's year.
Right.
I think they're consistent. I think they've got the attitude they've got their head screwed on right. I think they've got an experienced quarterback who's been to a Super Bowl before and has lost. And I think Detroit is going to get to the Super Bowl, and I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win 2 home playoff games, and then they'll probably going to have to go to Baltimore to beat the Ravens. And I think the Bills will beat the Chiefs at home, and then I think they will beat the Ravens. But I think that Detroit is going to beat the Bills. Where is the Super Bowl this year? It's going to be in a nice weather place.
Are they doing it in LA again?
Maybe it is at SoFi. So yeah, I think that I think Detroit over Buffalo. It's crazy thinking in the Super Bowl, but yeah. So we'll see how all of it pans out, and hopefully we'll have a lot more playoffs to talk about here pretty soon. But thanks, Alex, man.
And thanks for having me.
It's fun. Hopefully we'll do this a lot more. So
that was fun.
This is Drew Robinson with Alex Deits. Take it to the house. The first episode is in the wraps. So
there we are.
It's all good.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thanks.